need context in a game that gives hints and clues as to why the adventure or narrative is taking place, but I do appreciate something that indicates why exactly I'm playing. When it comes to the Daiko developed action-adventure Gleamlight, I feel like something is missing that holds it back from achieving whatever it is it's trying to do. Gleamlight begins without context as you take on the role of a character named Gleam, which I only found out was his name after reading more about the game. There's no arrow pointing the player in any direction or any exposition that gives you a hint as to what you're supposed to do or who the actual enemy is. Games such as Journey pull this off early by rewarding the player who explores with clues to piece together the world. In Gleamlight, you're left with nothing but the knowledge of past gaming experiences where you're slashing mindlessly at enemies. Sadly, whatever story Gleamlight is trying to tell is lost in its annoying level design and lack of adequately motivating the player to want to continue. The developers seem to have thought that randomly placing spikes on the ground and creating many moments of leaps of faith would be a good idea. Furthermore, to up the difficulty and lack of creativity, instead of taking the time to create enemies that require any amount of strategy, they simply filled platforms with copy and pasted grunts, making it come off as a lazy way to create roadblocks. If this wasn't bad enough, the developer repeats area designs multiple times, making you think you're going around in circles. Exploration isn't fun because it's not needed outside of finding these red gems that open doors. In fact, the only way you should go out of your way to fight an enemy is if you need help, because landing an attack gives you more HP. There are several different themed areas, but the layout pretty much stays the same. The more interesting moments of gameplay are the random platforming puzzles that caught me off guard, because they just randomly happen after rooms and rooms of battles. Still, they are fun and become more complex after you defeat bosses who give you some upgrades. You may not know that the upgrades were acquired though, because the game doesn't tell you that you have a new move. I love the idea of no UI, but I think they took things a tad bit too far here. Even an animation of Gleam picking up a new move after the boss battle would have worked, but instead, you kind of just move on in an anticlimactic way. One of the most jarring discoveries is at the ending of the game, which happens only after an hour of gameplay. Yes, the credits roll following a boss encounter and you're taken back to the main menu. However, starting from the same save file will begin the adventure in reverse with a few new weapons. I'll just say, this false ending doesn't work for this type of game, because at the time that the credits roll, you still have no idea why you're even on this adventure in the first place. There's nothing that indicates what this world is or who the enemy is you're fighting. I'll give the game some credit for its music and art direction. The atmosphere that this combination creates is actually really nice, and the same goes for the boss battle themes. It makes you want more from the game, but instead, you're just getting a confusing mess of ideas that don't ever work out. Gleamlight may have been great in concept, but it does not work at all in execution. There's nothing here that players can attach themselves to as a reason to continue playing outside of some great visuals and sound design. Still, the battle system is basic, the upgrades are the bare minimum of what you'd expect from these types of games, and the level design is a copy and pasted maze. This UI-less experience has worked in other games, but it comes off as lazy game development here when the team didn't try to provide a reasonable explanation of its systems or narrative. Noisy Pixel is giving Gleamlight a 4.5 out of 10. Thank you for watching. Please read the full review on noisypixel.net. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers who work hard to deliver news, reviews, previews, and more. Please subscribe to keep up with all our future content.